Tuesday into Wednesday. That's the latest look at your forecast. Gene, over to you.
All right, Sherry, thank you. It's the most disturbing case of child sex abuse any of us have ever heard about. John Burbine of Wakefield accused of abusing 13 children, some as young as 8 days old. Middlesex County District Attorney Jerry Leone shared the troubling details of the case last week. He joins us this morning to talk more about this case and also a new program aimed at helping identify the signs of domestic violence. We'll talk about that in detail in just a moment. But first, Jerry, a few questions about the Burbine case. And about laying out the case in court yesterday, we heard more about it. It's tough to listen to, but when was it that this guy first came to your attention?
Well, my personal attention, Burbine came to my attention in the summer of this year. But for departments who deal with child abuse, Burbine was on the radar screen since at least 2005, 2006.
So everybody was aware he was a level 1 sex offender at that point?
At that point, in 2005, 2006, yes, because he had registered between 2005 and 2006, a decade after, more than a decade after he had committed the crime.
Now, the two incidents that you were speaking of that nothing came of, why was it you couldn't pursue him in those particular cases?
It speaks to the very dynamic of child abuse. These predators prey upon kids who really can't disclose what's happened to them. So it's really difficult to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt, given who they prey upon.
Is there something you could do at that point to either notify police or to notify the registry, the sex offender registry, look, this guy's involved in some stuff, or does there have to be a legal complaint where you do get a conviction or at least an arrest where they could change his status?
Well, we really need to enlist the legislature's help in this regard, because in Massachusetts, there are constraints, there are limitations, and frankly, a lack of clarity. The courts just found this summer that the Sex Offender Registry Board can only consider a final conviction in reclassifying a defendant, which is obviously contradictory to what the public and law enforcement want in cases like this. So people look at you and say, well, gee, Jerry, how come you couldn't do more on this, but by law you couldn't? No, there are limitations, and there's a lack of clarity around what you can do as far as information sharing and public disclosure.
Is it fair to say this guy fell through the cracks? I mean, people did know about him, yet he was still able to offend. People say, well, how does that happen? It's frustrating, and a lot of people are upset by that.
Yeah, the Massachusetts laws have to be tighter around information sharing between agencies and public disclosure and the definition of these predators.
With this guy's case, do you think it was a matter of him being classified incorrectly in terms of not being, just being a level 1, or was it a case where the system, the registry system, failed because he was a level 1 and perhaps should have been higher?
I think it's on a few different levels. I think it's the definition of the levels of sex offenders. I think it's the ability to inform the public, and I think it's how we're able to inform the public now. And I think, frankly, it should be low-hanging fruit as far as clarifying in all of those areas.
If a guy is convicted on any child sex abuse case, how is he ever classified as level 1? It seems to me that would be 2 or 3, at 2 at the lowest, 3 most definitely.
Shouldn't be. And this case happened in 1989. A decade later, you had the formation of the Sex Offender Registry Board. At that time, they classified him as a level 1. When they went back with an attempt to reclassify, the recent case by the Essex County DA, John Blodgett, who was very aggressive in trying to reclassify a defendant, shows us the courts aren't going to allow us to reclassify unless there's a conviction. And that highlights the very core of what's difficult about child predators.
What can you do as a district attorney with other district attorneys to make sure the legislature knows this has to be changed and maybe bring Massachusetts in compliance with the federal law, which right now we're not?
I was with District Attorney Blodgett and my colleagues yesterday talking about this. I was on the phone with the senator and representative from Wakefield, the home of Burbine, Senator Clark and Representative Broder, and those efforts are ongoing right now.
So you think this will be addressed, hopefully in not too distant future here in the Commonwealth?
They certainly do.
I know the families are seeking privacy here. Can you give us some idea how they're coping?
I can. I was on the phone with a father yesterday. They asked that their privacy be respected, and frankly, they just want us to continue doing what we've done to keep people like the Burbines, not only predators but enablers, off the street and out of their communities.
In talking about this case, Jerry, you had said that this guy should never be out in the street again. You don't think he will. Are you confident that will be the case? I mean, a lot of, it's Massachusetts, anything can happen. We've seen it happen in other cases. Yeah. Will this guy ever be out on the street again?
People like this guy shouldn't be on the street, and I'm confident that the way this case has been built and developed, that he won't be on the street.
And do you ever think there's a chance he might cop a plea here? Because obviously people in your office had to view the material here. If there is a trial, the jury will be subjected to that as well. I think everybody would like to avoid that. You get the sense that maybe there'll be a case where he'll cop to this, given the overwhelming evidence apparently in this case, and you'll avoid having to deal with that?
I can only comment on the strength of the case, which I can say is very strong. As far as what the defense will do in this case, I can't speculate nor comment. We'll see.
All right, let's shift gears here a little bit. We'd like to now bring in Angela Watson from the Empire Education Group. You guys have teamed up for a new program. It's called Cut It Out. It helps identify signs of domestic violence. Actually, very interesting what you have working here, Jerry. Explain how this program is going to work.
Domestic violence cuts at the very fabric of our society, which is our families. And there are so many barriers against disclosure for abused victims that we have to come up with creative ways to get at breaking down those barriers. And one is based on a fact that we know, which is women will confide in salon professionals. And so what we've done is we've taken that fact and worked it into a program where we try and get and break down the barriers against disclosure by working with salon professionals.
And that's where you come in, Andrea, and you've got students you're going to train, and folks from his office are going to help train some of your students to help along those lines. What types of things will they be learning?
Absolutely. We've teamed up with District Attorney Leone's office, and what we're going to be doing is training our students. We have several hundred students just in Middlesex County and also in Boston and Hyannis, and we're going to be training our students who are going to be future cosmetologists to recognize the warning signs of abuse, recognize if there's abuse on the neck or the head, and also just to be able to recognize what a woman might say to them. One of the places that a victim may go by herself would be the salon. Oftentimes abusers are so controlling, they don't let them speak with their family or their friends, but the one place they may go by themselves is the salon. So we want to be able to equip our students as they head out into the workforce with the ability to recognize anyone who may need help. And we're not asking them to be counselors or therapists, but just to be able to offer help to them in the way of a card with the National Domestic Violence Abuse Hotline on it. Those type of things that could really save a life.
And there always seems to be a level of trust there, too.
Absolutely.
So if they feel comfortable with who they're talking to, odds are they might share some more information.
Yeah, if there's one thing that women know is that your hairstylist often becomes a very good friend of yours, and if you're going to spend a lot of time with them, a couple hours in a chair, you start to talk about things, and it's one way that you can help.
People might hear about this and say, gee, that seems kind of strange, but the more I think about it, it makes perfect sense. Is this being done in other places at all?
It's not being done anywhere locally. It's a national program, which is what we've cribbed from. We look anywhere we can to find creative solutions. So we've brought it to Massachusetts. We started with career and technical vocational schools across Middlesex County, just giving women who've been abused a day of niceties, hair, nails. And then through that, we train younger people who are going to become salon professionals like those that we're talking about today and training today to look for the signs.
How long will it be from training to when they're actually in a work environment and might be able to put their skills to use?
Takes about 9 months to get through a cosmetology program here in Massachusetts. So we train them. They'll go through the training once while they're at our school, and then they go out into the workforce, and hopefully they never have to use that, but if they do, they're trained for it.
And what would the procedure then be, Jerry, if they come across something they find troubling or disturbing and feel that you should know about? What would they do then?
We connect them up with service providers who we work with in Middlesex. It's a web and a network, and we're constantly trying to break down the barriers against disclosure through these community-based networks. So they would present that information to us. We would work with it. We know there's a sensitivity with the victims of abuse and work with them.
And have you found students eager to take part in this, Andrea?
Absolutely. They are more than eager. We actually partner up with local domestic violence programs in our area to offer fundraising for them. We offer free beauty services to residents, their children, even educational endowments that we offer if someone who's a resident of one of our shelters wants to go to beauty school and change their life around that way. So it's something that we fully embrace.
And folks want to get involved, Jerry, they want more information. What's the best way to go about that?
Contact the Middlesex DA's office through our website, middlesexda.com, or just call our office.
And you expect before long, once folks do get out there, that hopefully, again, you won't have to deal with this, but perhaps it will be another resource to help people understand what's going on and maybe help some women.
Absolutely.
All right. Jerry Leone, appreciate your time as always.
Right.
Great to see
Thanks,
you. Andrea,
Gene.
thank you very much.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
your time
Thank
this
you.
morning as well. Let's get it to Shan.
Thank you very much. Time now.